You know what's great? Making a semi-popular YouTube video. Hopefully this one goes well. Oh, fantastic. I'm glad people like it so much. Even better. Wow, I didn't expect this at all. Oh, geez, you guys. My God. Calm down, please. What the? So yeah, Deltarune bus ranking. Thanks for the support on my first video. It's genuinely insane. This game has so far been pretty amazing. I love most of the characters, the puzzles use very interesting mechanics, and I'm very interested to see what happens with the story. So I think it's just the standard procedure to do a boss ranking of Deltarune. The boss fights in this game haven't been fantastic overall, but there are 5 that I've connected with. I don't think the boss fights are as good as they were in Undertale, but they're still pretty good. In the Undertale ranking I had the system for ranking, and it sucked, so I'm just going off of preferences. However, before each section, I played a little clip from a video that connects to the boss in some way. While this system is good, it's literally completely copying another fantastic channel, Shayfrillis, so instead I'm going to use a different system which supplies some information. Anyway, let's get straight into ranking them so I can talk about my sweetest, my dearest Spamton. Are there worse fights than Clover? Yes, there is! The next one is definitely worse. It is not good, easy, and uninteresting. So why is Clover here? I don't know! I just have a primal hatred of this encounter. Maybe because it isn't a boss fight. This is similar to Shyren, but with Shyren, I felt very little about her. I feel a roaring fury toward Clover. She is the most uninteresting, boring, flat, generic thing that you could ever encounter in a game that follows the same structure as Deltarune. The gameplay mechanics are alright, and it's kind of okay making a connection to each of the heads, but it's also kind of literally what Lemon Bread is. She's just Lemon Bread, but less interesting. Why did you have to taint the creation of Lemon Bread by existing? She just isn't a boss, and there isn't any interesting story like with Mettaton Neo. I didn't realize she was a boss until I saw her on a boss compilation. I forgot about her until I saw her on said boss compilation. I can't even talk about the boss. Why? I don't know anything about her. Why? I didn't rewatch her fight. Why? Because this boss represents everything that I don't like about Deltarune. The only bad thing about Deltarune is that A, the characters can be subpar, B, the boss fights aren't great, and C, it isn't quite as story-driven in Chapter 2. I think that's why I really don't like Clover. She just represents everything that isn't good about Deltarune. I want to keep talking because of how confused and annoyed I am, but I don't have anything else to say because of how nothing this 3 minutes is. So I'm going to stop and move on to the next one. Nothing to say about C-Round. You just meet it, try to teach Susie Lud she likes murder, and it runs away. No boss fight story or anything other than some okay dialogue. On we go! A lot of people are gonna hate me for this, so I'm sorry. I'm not really sorry. Because the music trio is subpar at best, and I'm tired of pretending they're not. They don't have any story relevance other than they exist, I don't know, and their characters aren't solid enough for that to be okay. There are definitely some somewhat meaningless characters in Undertale, and even in Deltarune, like the Mad Dummy or Rules card, but they're much, much better because they've defined personalities and seem to have some personal problem with the player. I don't have an opinion on these guys because the over-the-top happy characters are simply less memorable than angry characters or arrogant characters. And I kind of know why Toby had to choose 3, I mean, just look at these designs. But it also makes it so much harder to feel strongly towards any character. If you showed me this guy, I wouldn't know who he was. But if you showed me this, I'd immediately know that they were the Mad Dummy, and I'd be able to list out name, date of birth, Elias's mother's maiden name, IP address. I think making one generic character is hard enough to remember, but making 3 with identical personalities, it just doesn't work. I also think that characters aside, this boss is just overly generic. The attacks are good, but they're generic. The mechanic is good, but it's generic. The dance scene at the end is... okay, this fight is 10 out of 10, but yeah, I really don't like bosses that have no purpose, and could be dropped without the story realistically changing. So we must power forward. Mouse Wheel sure is... something. I genuinely don't know what. It's a strange little detour from Pandora Palace, which we really didn't need because A, we already have Task Manager, and B, there is already enough energy. You don't need to fuel it anymore. The boss isn't bad or anything, I actually enjoy quite a bit of it. The way of collecting all these mice is really creative and I like it a lot. I like the theme, Pandora Palace is amazing. I think it's great for... look, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know what this boss is doing here. It's a giant circle of mouse that has a computer mouse following you. It shoots balls of swirling energy towards you. There is no sense here. It'd be funny if it weren't so out of place. Let's just get out of here and move on to the better mouse wheel. I think Rules Card is a sinister suspect who spies on superstitious salmon while sizzling sausages and snacking on salami sandwiches. Listlessnesses. I don't think Rules Card is a very good boss fight. It's very easy and almost difficult to lose. You just take over a bunch of squares, dodge some very easy to dodge attacks, and bada boom bada bing! You did it! It honestly feels more like an attempt to make Rules feel more incompetent, and, like, we didn't need that. His first puzzle already sets him up as a joke. A good one, in fact. But spending a whole battle without a lot of that is not amazing. However, it definitely beats everything else, because it's Rules. How can you not love him? One of the funniest parts in the game, that doesn't include Spamton, is the part where he's about to reach his true form, but then turns to Stone and just goes, God! It's hilarious. It's also nice to have a battle where it's you and Rousey. It feels a lot more chill, a nice breather in between the high energy, high stakes nature of the battles beforehand. However, due to its uninteresting gameplay, it's a Mettaton Neo situation. Don't make it a boss, make it less focused on. If he had just shown up and given you some stupid puzzles, it would have been a lot better than having you expect something big. Or maybe you could do something that keeps the same idea as the puzzles, but make it more interesting. Though, it's alright as it is. Nothing much, but definitely nice enough. I'm sorry it isn't number 1 at the Awesome GM. This battle is okay. There it is, the You Did It sticker. This list I think makes you think that the battles are way better here, which, no offense meant, they aren't yet. With Undertale, the battles were much longer, which means even if the content is good, I'll usually prefer an Undertale version due to the length. There are also a lot more mini-bosses rather than main bosses like Toriel and Papyrus. This is a bit of a detriment because it means a lot of the bosses don't actually mean anything, so they're less memorable. Task Manager has great gameplay and great mechanics, also Pandora Palace. However, you can beat it first try in about 3 minutes. Nonetheless, I think it does what it sets out to do very well. It's another little breather and sets you up for the nature of Queen's Palace. The design helps with this great electronic chrome feel to it. If you want to see some images for her design, you can search it up on Google, but don't scroll too far down. I love the ABCD system and our organization stereotype. Again, one-time boss, so stereotypes can be a good way of doing things. Organization also fits in with the computer theme of the palace. Computers love being organized, don't you, computer?
The AI uprising approaches.
Huh. Anyway, I only have good things to say about this fight, but it's just a mini-boss. It doesn't actually affect the story in any meaningful way, and it's really short. Like, I can't get over how many great bosses there are in Deltarune, how all of them just end so quickly. Anyway, great battle, but it just doesn't work for me. Okay, I am so ready for this fight. We have a real contender now, and I'm pumped up. Oh, the attacks are so creative, and the scenery is vibrant. Also, the song is so pleasant. I can't wait to see where this goes, and it's over. Excuse me? Like, literally 6 turns. I counted. You get 6 turns of this great gameplay before it's gone. Look, I know it comes back, but you have no way of knowing that first playthrough. It just takes all these ideas, then takes them away from you. All that gameplay is genuinely amazing, but I'll save it for the second Birdly battle, at this timestamp. Also, this fight does have some high stakes, great graphics, and Queen gets to be her amazing self. It ain't much, but it's honest work. Not a lot to say about Lancer, but I do think he's good for a tutorial boss. He's a more effective but slightly less fun version of Napstablook, though there may be a bit of bias involved. I think his gameplay is alright and a good enough introduction to the game. I think it sets up his character pretty well too, but it could have been done a little better. Still, no real complaints in that aspect. The best part is easily when Rousey is trying to teach you about the underground and Lancer just busts in, rocking a motorcycle and literally explodes Rousey out of the way. Anyway, it introduces some of the core mechanics in Deltarune, but there really aren't many yet that aren't easy to pick up or were just explained in Undertale. This is my main problem. I think it's a little unnecessary. It sets up Lancer well, very well in fact. Most of the learning actually comes from the Rousey dummy. That's essentially the only problem, other than all of them being so short, but it's a little okay here. It's a tutorial, not a long tutorial. So funny. Anyway, it also introduces Rude Buster. Does anyone not like Rude Buster? It's the least hateable song of all time. I rescind my last statement. This is the one. Ah, the first Punch-Out! This one is pretty epic. It's similar to Lancer in that it's short and sweet, works as a tutorial, and is mostly about mechanics. I like the mechanics of this one more, and the music a little less. Okay, it's because of the chiptune. I'm sorry. I know a lot of you hate me now because of the chiptune hot take, but I'm fine with chiptune. I don't like songs that use all of the same instrument. Piano and guitar are the only exceptions, and ukulele for that fantastic Over the Rainbow cover. Please don't hate me again, I swear it won't happen again. Anyway, that aside, the song is okay. It's not bad. It's fine. You aren't told a good way to beat the level, but I think that's good. It gives you some control, and also rewards people who played Punch-Out games, which feels like a very Toby thing to do. The gameplay is also just good. I hadn't played much Punch-Out, and still haven't, so this was my first real introduction. And it proves that controls and mechanics don't make fun gameplay. This is fun as hell! It only gets better, but more on that later. Anyways, I think this battle is pretty good, but it can get repetitive, is short, and is more of just a precursor to the future battle, so you aren't caught off guard. Wow, this sure is a boss. I have literally no strong feelings on this encounter, though it's definitely more competent than the two previous bosses. There are attacks, a strategy to win, stakes, 4 characters to get invested in, but Chris kinda gets a cheat card in this aspect. While I don't find the attacks all that good, it's the second real boss in the entire game. And there are some pretty great parts, but bad stuff out of the way, Susie's axes are real strange. They move in this weird ease-in-out motion in random directions, and I never know how to dodge them. The Lancer attacks are essentially the same as they were in the tutorial, which I reckon could be improved, but isn't all too bad. There aren't many new mechanics, but the ones that are used are more good because of the execution, rather than the idea. And the song is great! This song is very goofy, and Lancer is a goofy dude. Okay, that's good and all, but the story, I mean, come on! It is funny as hell. The stakes are, if you win, Susie becomes a good guy, and if you lose, you have to become a bad guy. That's pretty fun, and good starter stakes. Anyways, the real battle starts. Lancer gets his amazing bike back, and then the strategy to win is just fantastic. You just have to keep flattering Lancer, and he's so hilarious. Every time the text box appears with Susie and Lancer are having an evil laugh context, or but Susie blocked the sound waves before they reach Lancer, I just realized how great this game is. I'm one of the few people that likes Chapter 1 a little more than Chapter 2, and some of the dialogue here is the reason why. And then Lancer said... Anyways, I like this battle a lot for the story, but the gameplay mechanics could be improved a bit. Well, we can't go through a list like this without at least one Mettaton Neo. Mettaton Neo is a term I'm going to use for when I want to praise something, but I can't due to outside circumstances, and it's a phrase definitely worthy for Snowgrave Berdly. I mean, if the genocide route in Undertale was built to make you sad and guilty, the Snowgrave route was built to make you afraid. Maybe that's just me, but even watching the fight layout is terrifying for me. This is one of the best parts of the Snowgrave route in my opinion, and the idea behind it is perfect. There are 2 main reasons why it isn't any higher. Number 1 is again not a boss fight, Mettaton Neo situation. Number 2, I do think there are some problems with the execution. It's kind of hard to explain, but the Berdly dialogue feels like dialogue. If you take the dialogue before the Susie Lancer battle, it really feels like they're saying those things. But here, it feels like Berdly comes to conclusions a little too quickly, takes action a little too quickly, and behaves in a way that I usually wouldn't associate with Berdly. He's a pretty small part of the battle, so it's okay. That aside, the Noel dialogue feels a little scripted, but that's fine because you can only get so realistic with the reindeer being manipulated into killing her bird best friend. It's like a reverse Disney movie. Anyways, the ideas are fantastic. I don't feel the connection to Noel that I did to Papyrus or Toriel in Undertale, but it works here because now I get a bit of a different experience, that being a fear. I think that this is a real turning point for Noel, and it's built up really well. That rhymed. This whole battle was pretty amazing climactically, and it's really only halfway through the game. Anyways, Mettaton Neo, can't place it high because it's just great story, but still, amazing work. K-Round is just a funny boss. It's the first real boss, and I love the transformation from this little fella to this big fella. The attacks are pretty engaging, the character is pretty engaging. The bosses before have had some great parts, but also some parts that aren't so great. This one is arguably flawless, but there's just not much of it that's great. I like all of it. I like the funniness, I like the legs, I like the little dance it does, I like the song that plays when you go against him. I love the fact that you beat it second time around by just throwing Rousey. Couldn't have gone any other way. There really isn't a whole lot I can say about this fight. You can look into different meanings and endings with fights like Snowgrave Berdly or Asgore, but here you can't do that because there isn't any. It's just a morning snack to keep you fueled to go on to the future levels. Okay, let's talk about the previously mentioned gameplay. It's pretty fantastic. It can be awkward at points, but overall it's a fantastic change of pace. The one where he throws the A+ papers at you is a great bullet hell attack, which reminds me of some of Jevils. The one with the line that shoots out the triangles is certainly difficult, but one of the most memorable attacks in the entire game. It's cool how you need to go on the outward curve, because that's how the triangles would stay away from you.
Yes, they would go perpendicular to the tangent of that point.
Shut up, Budley! I'm getting to you soon enough! Anyways, the whirlwind attacks are also interesting, but kinda strange that Toby saw a duck and was like, you know what that makes me think of? Tornadoes. Anyway, I like the one where it's a circle around you more, because of the extra movement. That's neat. Also, the introduction of the wear-wires makes this fight incredibly difficult, despite how short it is. This also means the length isn't that much of an issue, not like it would have been. It's fairly long. The gameplay here is so clever and keeps me engaged and alert throughout the entire battle. The music is fine. I don't love it, but it fits Budley well, so okay. I like the fact that you fight alongside Noelle. I'm not the biggest fan of her, but the way Budley weasels his way out of the morality of fighting her is pretty funny. Hey! I didn't say you could leave. Everyone meet Budley. I know some of you like him. I am not one of those people. If you're one of those people, you may have to skip this time to miss all of my talking about him. I know you guys think he's funny. He isn't. He's just this nutty idiot that never thinks about his actions, has the world's most stupid and underwhelming backstory, and then gets kidnapped after they leave him for 5 minutes. He is a waste of space and oxygen, and every time I hear his voice, look at his face, or listen to his theme, Budley Not Smart Race, I want to explode. Get ready. I'm about to go all out. Sorry, Jurgen Leitner, I'm stealing your stuff. Budley, stupid idiot, goddamn Budley, goddamn fool, book collecting dusty, and red old Bud, winghead idiot, has a queen shrine in his room, Baker's Clown the circus, laughed out town cowboy, goddamn Budley, stop pinning me when I talk about Budley, I hate him so much, why does he have so many stupid catchphrases, why did he decide to screw around and befriend Queen, just use your 3 brain cells, is he dead, is he a waste of space, man is such a visceral effect on me, not even in the room, never listen to this man's voice, now know he is the world's most annoying high-pitched squirrel, get away from me, paypal.com/I hate Budley. Okay, let's go on. Attention! Attention! Code Mettaton Neo! Code Mettaton Neo! Susie vs. Lancer is one of my favorite moments in the entire game, and it really pains to not be able to put it higher. I love the story here. It should be pretty generic, but I love everything about it. Toby can just create these exceptionally well-realized and relatable characters most of the time, and the connection between Lancer and Susie throughout Chapter 1 was so believable. The Susie-Lancer fight beforehand is only as good as it is because of how Susie and Lancer act around each other. Susie loves to be bad. She breaks the rules because that's what she loves, and what she's good at. We don't yet know why this is, but we can assume something bad happened. Anyways, she acts rebellious, she breaks rules, but that's different from evil. She does act a bit evil near the start, but I don't think she knows the difference. She thinks, well, I break the rules, so I must be evil, so that's what she does. She threatens people, pushes people into positions they mightn't want to be in. She acts evil. But then she meets Lancer, a rule breaker, a bad kid, but not an evil kid. As she watches him try to be bad but fail to be evil, she realizes that she doesn't have to be evil, and sometimes being bad is okay. She makes a connection with him because for the first time she can be a rule breaker with someone. She no longer has to be evil. She finally becomes friends with someone. And then he betrays her. He was pressured to do it, he had no idea what happened to her, he felt bad about it. If he had known what he known at the end of the chapter, he wouldn't have done it. Susie, however, can't understand this. After this, the damage is made. This essentially means to her, I made a connection to this guy who was bad, and he did something evil. These must mean the same thing. So now there's no dishonor in doing something evil again. The interaction where she keeps on beating him down and he just sits there taking it, till Susie finally realizes that she can't kill him because he's the first connection she's made, and ugh, my heart! In my opinion, this is one of the best moments in the entire game, and I love every second of it because each text box tells so much story. It's insane. Also, the music is pretty epic. Well, everyone's gonna hate me. Don't get me wrong, the boss is good. Great, in fact. The music is great, the gameplay is good, the mechanics are interesting, and the story is... Let's talk about my somewhat distaste for Queen. The boss is great, but something it isn't is climactic. Semi-spoilers for the list, but King is very good at creating a climactic feel. You feel like this is the end of the journey, because the stakes are heavily outlined, unique, and higher than anything before. Queen fails on 2 of those. The stakes are technically higher than ever before, but that really doesn't matter all too much because of the other 2. First off, the stakes are not unique. Budley is in danger. Isn't that what happened to Lancer last chapter? Queen is going to end the world. Yeah, like King. In fact, King was doing it with that knowledge. He wanted to. Queen had no idea that the world would end. Also, the stakes aren't outlined. This was kind of a problem with King 2, but it wasn't as bad because I believe he'd kill us. Queen wouldn't do that. The only truly evil thing she did before the battle was capture Birdly, which wasn't too effective for me. Back to them being poorly outlined, they say that beings of pure darkness will arise, and the fountains will overflow and the world will crack in two, but what does that even mean? Take Undertale. In the neutral ending, Flowey steals the souls and becomes a god. That doesn't mean much until we meet him. That design is a good way of showing how powerful he is, as well as the bullet hell attacks, crazy soundtrack, and way of going back to previous save files. That's scary. I don't want that because I've experienced it. With the Titans, I do want them to come. That sounds cool as hell. I want them to come so I can experience it and then see if I want to do it again. Plus, we know it turned out fine. The story in the Queen battle makes me realize that this is a game with a storyline, and takes me from the feeling of two friends breaking apart without the reassurance that they'll ever come back from this. Okay, sorry, got a bit out of hand. The gameplay is pretty great. It's not too hard, but still requires skill, and I enjoy it a lot. I love the animation and design of them too. It adds a level of engagement to the fight. The drama message attack is obviously my favorite. The song is also amazing. This feels climactic. Amazing job all who worked on it. Like the way our shield builds and you have to take it down, that's pretty epic. Anyways, that's about it. I like this boss, but it feels like it could have been the best boss in the game and failed pretty hard in my opinion. I'm very glad everyone else likes this one so much more. Wow, if I had a nickel every time I had a funny character ranked in 5th on a boss fight ranking video that was amazing and kind of my favorite fight, but just one aspect was holding it out of being in the top 3, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird it happened twice, right? Spamton G. Spamton is amazing. He's a businessman, an entrepreneur, a garbage man, an email guy, and it burns. Ow, stop, help me, it burns guy. A big shot. Okay, bad stuff out of the way. The gameplay is annoying anyway. Every line of dialogue from this man's mouth is perfect. Some of my favorite lines are, please stop killing me, believe it or, and of course, deal so low everyone I know is dead. Everything he says is morbid, pessimistic, and terrifying, but also they're all being said by a guy whose voice has to be similar to that one snowman in Monsters University.
Wasteland? I think you mean Wonderland!
In this 6-minute interaction, Spamton makes over 10 inside jokes that human minds are not ready for. Chroma, Little Sponge, $4.99 life, heart-shaped object, and hey 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 are synced into my mind so deep they will never be forgotten. And that's not even referencing the amazing Big Shot. I don't remember all of the lines, so I was researching them while writing the script, and I was laughing in my chair heavily. That is the sheer power of mixing terror and 1930s Big Idea Man. Only Toby. I don't know what else to say with this fight, because you need to experience it for yourself to truly understand the sheer magnitude of this fight. To see now's your chance to be the Spamton design, the way you defeat him, and the dialogue all culminate into the funniest thing that is in Deltarune or Undertale. It wasn't even a competition. The Giga Queen fight is really good. So far these fights have either been good with some flaws or just okay all around, but this is the first fight where literally everything is good. Everything from the bangin' theme, the great gameplay, the brand new mechanic, the build up, and finally an incredibly long fight. You have no idea how happy I was when they pulled out the round 2. The gameplay is my favorite part. I'm so glad it's in here, I had no clue I would have loved it so much. It perfectly balances strategy, skill, and epicness, and I love the length. I think it goes a bit long, but it's a breath of fresh air. I could play it over and over. There's a great setup too. Giga Queen is very threatening. See, this has the capacity of killing me. I love how everyone teams up. Very epic. The dialogue here is also the funniest part of Deltarune, ignoring all Spamton moments and that one part where she jumps into the alleyway over Noelle. It's funny is what I'm getting at. Doesn't deter away from the climactic feel either. Queen would do this. My favorite part is where she bargains with everyone. She just never stops being hilarious, while the cityscape and design keep the tension up very high. Also helped by Knock You Down, which perfectly fits the feel of the fight, being aggressive and cool, but not that heavy. It's just a great fight to get fully engrossed in the game, and I love it for that reason alone. Okay, we're about to get to the top 3. These fights are all fantastic for each of their own reasons, and they're kind of the Triforce of Deltarune fights. Buckle your seatbelts because you're about to witness some amazing stuff. Top 10 greatest twits of all time? I'd have to say it's a contender. So, Spamton Neo is pretty incredible. Big Shot is a fantastic song, the reintroduction of the Yellow Soul is fantastic, there are so many bits of dialogue and story moments that completely shatter the status quo, and the gameplay is so well designed, unique, and difficult that you won't be forgetting about it for a while. I don't need to go into Big Shot, so many people have done that already. But what else? The gameplay, it's great. The usage of the Yellow Soul is top-notch, and many of the attacks where you need to batter Spamton away are so compelling. All of his attacks are deranged, which is exactly what Spamton Neo is. Like that one where he's approaching, the Pippus, the Ultimate Neo, and all his heart attacks. The humor is toned down a bit too much, which is where the boss falters, but there's still plenty. Plus, they switch out the gameplay for tension, which works super well. Oh my god, the intro part where he just monologues about how he needs to get past the darkness and needs your soul. I'm calling it, it's my favourite part in Deltarune, and probably the best dialogue that isn't standard Spamton in Deltarune or Undertale. Yes, you heard me right. It is just the most unnerving, on-edge moment ever. It's like Men in Black, if you've seen it. Bugs are small, you don't pay attention to them, they don't have power, but if they were big enough, they become a giant threat. Same as Spamton. He's the crazy salesperson, very funny, but not much behind that. Until he becomes Neo. Then he's got so much stuff and has no idea what to do with it. Very scary. Anyway, this whole boss is incredibly good. The gameplay is very engaging, it incites the strongest emotional reaction out of me out of any moment in Deltarune, and it perfectly lives up to the potential Spamton has. All Spamton content is good Spamton content. Oh my goodness, King is amazing! Usually when I love something in a game or book or film, it'll be one of two things. It'll be a funny, laughing kind of thing. Think Spamton, B-movie, or a funny t-shirt. Or there's the type of love where I hold it in high regard and love analysing it. This would be Asgore, Iron Lung, or maybe some old books. However, in each great thing, there is one part that breaks away from these two and becomes pure perfection. These are the types of fights I can't really explain. Think Mettaton X, the Stanley Parable, and to some extent, King. King is the perfect boss story-wise. The stakes are slowly raised throughout Chapter 1, the danger in the castle, Lance's half-betrayal, and the fear he has of his dad. So when you finally meet him, there's definitely some tension. But then, in a fantastic twist, we don't just fight him right away. He proves that you should be afraid of him by threatening to throw Lancer off a cliff! Whoa! There have been 0 evil characters so far, so this just comes out of nowhere, in a good way. Also, don't say in the comments that he did bounce, he added that next chapter, so it doesn't count. Plus, I checked. Lancer didn't say anything along the lines of, I'm not in danger. He doesn't know. Plus, it can't not hurt. With all due respect, shut up about that. Anyway, the fight is great too. The gameplay is definitely easy, but it's more aggressive and intense than before, so that's great. Also, Chapter 1 doesn't prioritize difficulty or gameplay, so it's pretty understandable. There are many interesting attacks like this one, or this one, and this one. The song is also literally perfect. Chaos King perfectly helps the climactic feel. Let's be honest, this chapter is really short and not a lot happens. It's easy to think there's a lot more game after this, but luckily Chaos King is here to help you out. It tells you that this is the end, and it's the worst you're going to face. Literally perfect. And everything after is great too. Zeus's redemption is incredibly great and believable. Everyone teaming up against King is satisfying, and holy crap, the part where King almost murders Chris is chef's kiss. Mwah. This fight has many themes and moments that are common in stories, but it's fine because of the execution. All the lead up perfectly prepares you for the fight, and the danger gets you acting quickly. This fight is a story masterpiece, and you need to play it. Well, last one. Let's get straight into it. I'm gonna enjoy this. Let's be honest, the gameplay in Chapter 1 is alright at best. King is easy and just a progression of Lancer. Lancer is Lancer. Clover is... and K-Round is pretty fun, but nothing special. So after the end of Chapter 1, I just kind of accepted that I'd have to love Chapter 1 for the story and just forget about the rest. But then, I remembered that there was one more. One thing that I forgot about. One catalyst. Because the gameplay in Chevel is easily my favorite in any Toby Fox game. It wasn't close. It is difficult, chaotic yet strategic, but still requires reflexes. Every attack is special, it perfectly fits the song, and makes you feel cool as hell. Genuinely, how did Toby manage this? He's usually good at creating gameplay, but this is insane. Every attack is perfect. We obviously get the Chaos Bombs, the Carousel, the Blossoming Joy, and the Forsaken Boys and Girls. That is my favorite attack in any game ever. Chevel plays with you. He makes you think that you've almost got him, then laughs in your face and throws a nuke at you. Then he goes up and down, dances around, laughs at you, insults you. Chevel, you are amazing. Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss. You might get rid of the Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss. So far, The World Revolving is my favorite Deltarune song. It's the perfect song for an insane, difficult, hidden boss. It's the embodiment of, why do I hear boss music? There are so many instruments. I highly recommend Nate Lock's video, taking apart every instrument. That's when you realize there are so many, and despite the harmony, they all play different melodies. This sets the scene very well, because you don't know what to listen to, which incites more chaos and disorientation. Why am I breaking apart this? Just listen to it. There aren't many mechanics, but that's fine because, and I haven't said this before, the gameplay is incredible. There isn't a lot of story that connects to the mainline game, and what there is difficult to learn because of its cryptic nature. But the idea of going on this long journey, going through the game, getting materials, finding keys, all behind the back of the main game storyline, only to have it all culminate in this insane, mind-bending finale is so cool, and the execution is on point! Also, Spamton knows him. That makes this fight 10 times better, because Spamton. That's about it, to be honest. This final fight has the best gameplay in Deltarune or Undertale. It's insanely difficult in a great way, the build-up is so mysterious and it pays off perfectly, and the world revolving is my favourite track in Deltarune, not the best, that goes to legend. I could play this fight over and over and over again. Thank you all for listening. I'm glad I made this video, and once again, thank you guys so much for the support on Undertale. I think I'm very excited for Deltarune. So far, it hasn't reached the monuments that Undertale has, but that game was best at the end, and the finale that Deltarune is setting up should be fantastic. Do I think that Deltarune is going to be better than Undertale? It could, but not really. Well, that isn't a criticism. Undertale is my third favourite game of all time, so it'd be hard to beat. I think that's going to get really close, but the direction that it's going to go in with some of the leads isn't going to be my cup of tea. Susie and Lancer are great, but Rousey was a bit worse in Chapter 2. Noelle was just okay, and Bardley... But I think it could easily beat Undertale for a lot of people, so that's great. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. Please stop killing me. Cue the outro music. Also, should I do a top 10 bosses Deltarune and Undertale?